Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode for a number of reasons. Number one, I know that you love these Thursday episodes because they are interviews with other entrepreneurs sharing their story and their journey of the things that they had to go through and grow through in order to get to where they are. But number two, I have an expert in the area of media, but also nonprofit work. And as you all know that have been following this podcast for the last 4.5 years, Nancy and I are very philanthropic. We love donating. We love volunteering. We love giving to charitable causes. But Nancy and I also love the world of media, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's speaking events, whether it's PR, all of those things really accumulate into making a larger impact on other people's lives personally and professionally. So with all that behind us, Joshua Berglan, welcome to today's episode.
I'm blessed to be here, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So before we dive into all the things that you're working on now and doing now in the area of your nonprofit, but also bringing media to the masses, if you were to look back on your journey through life and business, what would you say was the catalytic moment or the pivotal moment in your life where the light bulb was turned on and it set you on this path that you're now currently on?
Watching people get screwed over, experiencing it myself. When I first got into the entertainment industry and getting the opportunity to produce events and work in film to raise money for film, I got to see a lot of the ugly. I got to see a lot of the horror stories, not only myself being in desperation after being homeless and being able to raise a few million for a couple films and then not getting paid. And those giant contracts they give you don't really mean a lot if you don't have the money to fight them. They're that big for a reason. So I just experienced horrific thing after horrific thing. I mean, even being on set and being put in a position to do things that I wasn't really comfortable with, compromising my values, things like that. I told myself that if I was ever given the opportunity that I was going to do everything I could to change, not just the entertainment industry, but media in general. I was going to give media services and access to the trainings, the teachings, the equipment, everything that you need to be able to really operate as a media organization, because the thing about media is it doesn't matter what it is. If you know media, you can monetize it. And it gives people like myself the opportunity to take my intellectual property and make a life with that. And I've been in jail 6 times. I've got a rap sheet that's pretty ugly. I turned my life around 7 years ago, but that said, it didn't matter how much good I did in the world because, well, I had this record, that was all Googleable. So the only choice that I had, and I felt led in my spirit to be this way, was to just take a giant spotlight and put it on my shadow worlds and build my empire, if you will, on truth, a foundation of truth. And I also wanted to prove that you could be honest about. I was a little bit different. I was a little bit different with most people, that I grew up with money. My family had money. So I knew what success looked like. But my heart is for the people that don't even have a clue. So I want to take this media services and everything that we do with media in our nonprofit and equip the people that need it the most. This all started, I heard the word go. I was here in Minneapolis when the George Floyd riots started. And I felt in my spirit then, I heard the word go and I knew exactly what it meant. That's when we started our nonprofit media organization. And the whole mission is to equip the voiceless, but also be a voice for the voiceless.
I love that. And, I want to go back to something that you said about the truth. And, as the saying goes, the truth will set you free. And, again, I had the honor and the privilege of being on your podcast as well. And we share that common bond of the feeling of incarceration, not on a personal level. I did not experience it. My father went through that. And, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned. But if you were to look back at your time in the entertainment industry when you were obviously raising money for those films, who was the biggest muse or inspiration of someone that maybe you worked alongside or you saw from afar that was doing great things that, gave you that inspiration and that motivation that, as you mentioned, given the opportunity to do this my way on my own, I'm going to take the inspiration and the motivation that I found in this muse, in this person, and do it my way?
Oh, I love this. I love this question. Actually, it was one of those situations that happened in college, but I never accessed this until many years later. I was a backup dancer in Master P's son's Little Romeo. I was a backup dancer in the video Take Two. And I got to meet Master P and hang out because we were on set for 3 days. And I wanted to smoke pot with him, and he didn't smoke pot. But instead, he gave me business advice. But that business advice, I didn't do anything with for years because I never thought about it. Well, then Oprah started her own network. And then Nipsey Hussle was doing his thing. But essentially what this was, the message I heard, don't promote anything you don't own, and own your content, own your licensing, own your messaging, own it all. In fact, it's better to take the long road and wait instead of trying to get a sponsor. Just build it from the ground up and own everything yourself. It's the long road, but it's the road that you can build a legacy that no one can take from you. So that I started that process just a couple years ago because I knew in my heart these things that I was seeing as a kid and visions, downloads, whatever. I knew that the time was coming. And the cool thing about this is what I'm seeing and what I'm doing is really available for anyone and everyone. And now, because of the technology that's available, and you know this as well as anybody, anyone can be a one-person media organization now. And that, I believe, is the future, especially with where technology is going and all the different jobs that are being taken. Like, media is the path. Like, this is the way for freedom, no matter what comes at you. Because if anything, let's be practical about it. If you know media, you have at least 8 revenue streams, at least. And those revenue streams get to keep evolving and keep growing. And the cool part about it is if you do it the right way, you can also raise up other people with you. It doesn't have to be this situation where you look at media as this giant, scary monster staring down at you and controlling the way you think and the way you live. No. Anyone can do the same thing. And I'm proof of that.
Yeah, anything is possible. And that's what I love about life. Now,
Amen.
Going back to obviously those lessons that you learned outside of the Master P and the lessons that you learned from him, which that sound incredible advice. Through your experience raising money for other people's films, what would you say was the most gratifying or most impactful lesson learned in doing that for someone else that allowed you to replicate that and obviously start your own nonprofit where you're helping others really navigate, but expand and take advantage of in a positive way what the media world does provide creators and influencers and business owners?
Can you rephrase that first part of the question, please? I kind of misunderstood.
When you were obviously raising money for other other people and other films, what was the biggest lesson that you learned in going through that process that acted as something that you were able to bring into what you're doing now? So it was a lesson that you learned and you're like, oh, this is great, and I learned from it, and this is something that I can apply to what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, thank you for this question. We have discernment and intuition for a reason, but it's no good if we're drinking it. We're drinking our discernment away or partying our discernment away. And when you're doing big business with people and big ticket items, you need your faculties with you. Like, you need to be clear-headed and clear-minded. and to me, honestly, and your spirit needs to be clean. And I didn't have any of that. My discernment sucked. I got completely. I'm one of the few people. I can't say I'm one of the few people, but I remember going to LA and had $1 million in the bank. 8 months later, I was homeless. So I may have been making some big moves and doing some big things, but my discernment sucked, and I kept finding myself getting screwed over. Kept getting out sharked by the sharks, and I was kind of a shark. And so I'm grateful for my relationship with the Lord, because without that, I would never have been able to walk away from a 20-year chemsex addiction or any of the other things that I was involved in. So really the answer to your question is just having a clear mind and a clear spirit that can actually pay attention to the discernment when you're getting the warning signs that, hey, maybe you shouldn't do business with these people. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably true.
So with where media is now currently, and I think you've been along for the ride, as have I, with the advent of technology, social media, AI, there's just been such expansiveness over the last decade and a half. What are the biggest changes that you have seen in the media world that obviously lands us where we are presently, but more importantly, where do you see the media world going in the future?
Gosh, that's another great question. I think now the world is ready for truth and real. I'm talking about if your real honesty is nasty, like mine, I think the world's ready for it, because I think the world's desperate for something real. And I think the world is desperate for someone that they can actually root for, that is genuine, because I think a lot of us have realized that our heroes have not been what we thought they were. And that's kind of disappointing. I believe, to answer your question, I believe that the future is that we're going to host all of our own content. We're actually developing, so Media Company in a Box is something that we have now as a service. It's a hybrid of technology and service, but we're actually building out the technology as we speak. And one of the things that we want to do with that is be able to give it to people that normally don't have access, because there's a lot of voiceless people out there that their messages need to be heard, especially minorities, people that have gone through just horrific things in life. We work with a lot of former trafficking victims. We work with people in shadow prisons. And like some of these stories that we come across and that we get to work, the people we get to work with through our nonprofit, is really giving me the impression that the meek are about to inherit the earth. To take from a Bible saying, and of course it's been said through other religious texts as well. I believe that time is coming. The people that have been held down and suppressed, they're about to get theirs. They're about to have their opportunity to shine. And I want to be right there to help elevate them. The other thing that I see coming that it's going to be very interesting is that social media, film, and TV, even podcasting, is all going to kind of merge into one thing. Yes, it'll be different in different styles of content, but really the places that we watch, the places that we engage, they're all going to be like one platform. And I believe that we're going to be those platforms. Like we will be our individual media organizations that we're going to be able to sync up with other people, collaborate, do it securely. I can just tell you some of the things that we're working on the technology side that is helping move this forward. And it's not to take away from film. It's not to take away from TV shows or other content. It's really just about making things very convenient and allowing people to be truly independent media organizations so that they can monetize their likeness. And the reason why this will succeed is because there's going to be so many people out there that are hungry, that have a creative awakening and realize that this is the path forward, and it actually excites them. Because what better world do we get to live in when we all get to operate in our gifting? We get to use our gifts, the things that the spiritual gifts that we've been blessed with, to all make a difference in the world. When we all step into that, there'll be no time for racism and discrimination and judgment, because if you're living in your purpose, you kind of get to love everybody. Like, there's no time to hate. And I believe that all of this is going to shift at one time. And I also believe that entertainment is also going to change, because I think people will slowly, eventually start to get back to nature and away from technology. Now, we're still going to use technology, but we are going to start to appreciate those moments without it a lot more. And I believe that that'll all happen within the next 5 years.
No, I agree. I think there's going to be more of a harmonious balance between living and working, in the sense of people
Yes.
always being on their cell phones and their computers, and it's a challenge for a lot of people. I'm on the youngest end of Gen X. I was born in '79, so I didn't grow up with technology. My wife is 6 years younger than me, so you know I graduated high school in 1997. There were no cell phones yet, right? You didn't have a cell phone. There was no Blackberries or whatever else people had. You know,
Yeah.
she graduated in 2003. The world was much different in 2003 than 1997. So just in that 6 year swing, she was living a different way than I was. When I went to college in 1997, there was no texting your friends to meet up. You would call dorm room to dorm room. You would hit like the 4-digit code to call someone else's room. So there have been a lot of advancements, and I'm with you in the sense that I think there's going to be more, back to what I said, a more harmonious balance between technology, non-technology, people living, being more present. Now, when it comes to media, that's an overarching term that
Sure.
we use for whether it's digital entertainment, or any sort of entertainment, whether it's TV, it's podcasting. In the entrepreneurial world, media is very important because visibility is key. You want to be known, you want to be the expert in your space. What do you see as I would say, the biggest thorn in businesses' side when it comes to media, in the sense, what are they struggling most with? What has them not fully leaning into the power of not only accessing media, but producing media content for people to consume?
Well, I think that people that were used to traditional business, stepping into a role on camera can seem overwhelming. Like, because when you make this shift, my only job that I do all day is create now, because my foundational pieces are set. But that transition to, I'm going to be a media company first and start creating content around that, that can seem, it's like, well, no one cares what I have to say, or what if I stutter, or what if I do this? I mean, there's a lot of fear and insecurity. And I got to tell you, Facebook Live, and even though I'm not on social media at all, like I've completely gotten off social media, and I'm grateful for that. But I will tell you that Facebook Live was the best training for me to MC, speak on stage, do live broadcasts, do TV, and even doing product placement and live reads. Facebook Live was the ultimate training tool for me. And so I recommend anyone out there that's looking to make that recommendation, that's a great place to start to get you comfortable. And then it just becomes second nature, where you don't think about it anymore.
So let's talk about what you're doing now. Obviously, you have this incredible nonprofit, helping people in the sense of, having access to media, understanding how to leverage it. Tell the audience a little bit about, now that you've shifted into doing your own thing, what it is that you're doing, how you're helping people, and where can they learn more about it?
So the Live Mono Worldwide Foundation is our nonprofit media organization, and right now we're acting as a publishing company for really just to help get other voices out. We're also we have a free media training on the website, and it's a little bit. We did it in July, but since then we have a lot of new updates to add to it. But they provide a lot of foundational pieces. Our ultimate goal, and this is what I'm most excited about, and we're in the works of developing this as well, is not developing, and we have it developed. Now we're just looking to raise the money and start finding locations. We want to build youth media literacy centers, but also when I say youth, because my heart is for the youth, to help start breaking generational cycles of addiction, abuse, poverty, and on and on and on. But we will work with adults as well. But we want to develop these community centers that serve, it's like a boys and girls club hybrid, but also a media literacy center to teach media, where we can equip artists. It doesn't matter if you're a painter, a sculptor, a poet, a writer, an author, a talk show host, an actor, an actress, you want to be a cop, you want to be a producer. Like, we want to have all of the facilities and the equipment, everything somebody needs to be a one-person media organization. And this is the product we're developing too. Right now, like I said, it's a hybrid of a service and actual technology. It's going to one just piece of technology. We want to build these all over the world. And the reason why is we want to be able to work with children that are the youth that are inner city, but also the youth in third world countries. And we've seen a lot of success with our online trainings. We've trained like 5,000 people for our the last training. We had 5,000 people engage in the training, and 90% was in the Middle East and Latin America. Very few Americans took advantage of it, which is it shocked me. It surprised me. But that said, these media literacy centers will also serve as a safe house for former trafficking victims. And the reason why this is important is because 90% or more of trafficking victims go back to their captors. And the reason why, the devil you know is better than the one you don't know. And when you have no career, you have no education, you have no physical skills that you're aware of, except that you've been drugged and abused and your body has been sold over and over and over and over again. Well, that life sounds like a nightmare, but literally over 90% go back. So we want to be there for them to help them rehabilitate, but also give them the skills that they need to, at the very least, use their intellectual property to make a career for themselves. Most of these anti-trafficking organizations out there, they're just taking advantage of the victim, and they're not doing what they say they can do. We uncovered a very, very ugly world of human trafficking nonprofits or nonprofit anti-trafficking organizations. We saw the underworld of that, and it's terrifying. You got to be very, very careful of what organization you're supporting, because you may very well be supporting human trafficking without realizing it. So we want to provide a solution there. Also for little boys that have been sexually abused. I know what this is like. I know the nightmare that creates. We want to have that in this facility. We want to have the right care that they need, because it's a lot easier to heal a young person than it is a grown man. My journey has been painful to come back from what I came from, and it has not been easy at all, but it's been worth it. But I will tell you right now, somebody could have gotten to me 20 years ago, and a lot of the nightmares and the horrific things that happened that are depicted in our book, The Devil Inside Me, that stuff would have never happened. So we are all about rehabilitation, mind, body, and spirit, but then also equipping with the skills that are going to be needed moving into the new world.
Love that. It's a powerful mission, but also it's something it's needed. And there's a lot of people out there that need help. They need community, they need support. And I'm just so happy to hear that you're acting as that person, that company, that in between, I would say, opportunity for someone to get back on their feet and realize that there obviously is another way to live their best life. So Joshua, as we start to wind down, obviously you have a podcast, you got the book, you have your company. Where can people find out more about you, all the things that you're doing, and obviously dive into all of the assets that you have out there?
Everything is centralized on my website. All of the different broadcasts I do, our book or movie services, everything, even a link to our foundation is at Joshua T as in Tyler Berglan.com. So that's BERGLAN, Joshua T Berglan.com.
Awesome. And for all the listeners, all that information that Joshua mentioned will be in the description of this episode, so you're not going to have to travel too far. So Joshua, final question before we sign off today. What does success truly mean to you?
Freedom. The freedom to be yourself without fear, freedom to love freely, freedom to go for your dreams, freedom. For me, it's all about freedom, not the stuff that you see in the media, those freedom talks. I'm talking about spiritually free. And because when you're that, you can do anything, and you can do anything.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. And Joshua, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your gift, sharing your knowledge, sharing your inspiration, sharing your heart with my audience. I know that they took so much away from this, and what you're doing is so moving and so powerful and so needed, as I mentioned before. I'm just really happy that we connected, and I'm just really grateful that you were on the program today. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you. I really do appreciate you.
So again, for all the listeners, information about Joshua, you can find that link in the description of this episode, and wherever you're listening to this to and from, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved about this episode, but also share it out with people that you feel could utilize this message or could benefit from this message. And again, for those that do not know, there is now a subscription to this podcast for anyone that is looking to unlock some bonus episodes. There are subscription episodes that are released every Friday. It's only $2.99 a month, cancel at any time. So if you want to dive into even more deeper content outside of the Monday and Thursday content that is delivered, just go to the description of this episode and you will find the link to start your subscription today. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.